Thank you very much. Welcome to the graveyard slot. I know we're on top of descent on Sector 4 during fourth rotation at night, so please bear with us. We're on the final stretch. Hopefully myself, Mads, Simon, and Dennis will make it a bit lighter before the big panel discussion at the end. So welcome again. Let's see if this works. I invite you to join Slido. There is one simple poll question open, please, that we'd like your feedback on, and we can interact a bit on it. So, what are we talking about? So the title is a bit provocative. So issues relating to fatigue reporting, is data quality a myth? So we're not going to focus simply on data, but we're going to focus on all the aspects surrounding fatigue reporting. Now, we know that we've heard a lot in the past 1.5 days about fatigue reporting, but hopefully we're going to give you a bit more context on it. So this is our perspective. So part of the best intervention strategy update that we did for aircrew fatigue, that is up for consultation with the stakeholders. We did a safety issue analysis on ECRS data. Okay, so what is ECRS? Most of you know what it is. For those that do not know, it's the database where all the mandatory occurrence reports submitted by crew, operators, and NCAs come through. So I call this the total system approach. So we mainly focus on the operator submitting a report to the NCA, who in turn feeds ECRS. But you see on the bottom right, there is someone who is actually submitting a report. So I did it in green, in gray on purpose. So not much data. I don't want to bomb you with data at this time, so I have one slide. So in the safety issue analysis on ECRS, we managed to filter this number of fatigue occurrences that led to an operational event. Simple equation, so missed approach, level busts that were reported with a fatigue component. Okay, so please bear in mind, here we are always talking about the data that we have in ECRS. So starting by the crew and operators, you have much more accurate data than this, but this is where we're coming from. So you will see that in 2024, we had a peak. So of occurrence reports, that's about 21 occurrences per 1 million flights that had a fatigue component. Just to put things in perspective, we had 1,700 occurrences per million flights with reported GNSS outage or GPS failure, just to put a bit of context. Reports where turbulence encounters with injuries, it's something that is featuring quite high, was 97 occurrences. So we go in crescendo. So we'd like to have your say, and this is not a trick question, it's just to have a bit of an interaction with you to see what you think of this. So hopefully this is going to work from here. So Dino, if you allow me to present. Not good at multitasking, according to my wife, so hopefully this works. All right, this works, I think, or no? Yes, wow, okay. So let's see. Okay, what is the biggest challenge when analyzing fatigue-related occurrences? And here we're, of course, relying on your expertise. Okay, so I see quite a few number of persons that have this expertise in-house. And of course, what features high is underreporting due to reporting culture. Interesting. Narrative text lacks detail, followed by taxonomy issues, difference in the member state reporting culture, duplicate reports, and missing ERCS scoring. Very interesting. Please keep voting. I'll just stop sharing at this moment. So if we can go back to the presentation, sir, thank you. So after I went all through the data, and it was a lot of data, I'm sorry to tell you that 88% of the submitted occurrences lacked an ERCS scoring. And I'm not looking for reasons, okay, now, so this is what we have in our issue analysis. Going a bit more in detail, oops, sorry. We had a lot of duplicates, sorry. Cannot master this. I told you I'm not good at multitasking. So we had a lot of duplicates, duplicate reports, and it was a lot of work sifting through the reports. We had inconsistent coding, and here, people working with hackers and taxonomy know better than I do that there is a very good reason for this. Missing ERCS scores, this was by far the highest, 88%. This one, I think, is the most significant one for me, who tried to make sense out of the issue, and we had very weak narratives. So many times we could not understand what the issue was, or we had reports like, oh, I had an unstable approach, I needed to do a go around, I was low on fuel, and by the way, I was a bit tired. So we did include them in the analysis, but it's not very clear. And we had a lot of reporting variability per member state, so it's interesting because it did feature a bit low on your report, but yes, we do have differences amongst member states. I would like to preempt you, we don't know why yet, and possibly we might not have a clear answer anytime soon yet. But hopefully we will have more clarity as time goes by. So this is my input at this stage. I will ask my colleague Mads to light up the room and continue keeping you alive. So Mads is going through his bit on what Denmark did on the issue and his take on shared responsibility. Matt?
Thank you.
I will be back soon. So.
Thank you very much. Actually, I had two things before I started. First of all, I really would like to thank you, EASA, and the Croatia Aviation, Civil Aviation, for allowing me to talk here and to be a part of this panel. The second thing is actually, I have been listening now for nearly 2 days, and I think the new buzzword for fatigue is actually shared responsibility. And that's one thing that I find very, very good. So it's completely aligned with what I will stick into right now. The third thing was just before I go into this, actually, I saw the poll that was coming right now, and more than 50% says actually it's something about reporting culture. So this is something we need to do something about, that's for sure. I would like to share a little bit our focus on fatigue reporting in the Danish civil aviation and why we have this focus right now. Suddenly, we saw a decrease, you see here, if we don't count 21 and 22 due to COVID. Then we saw a decrease from 23 to 24, and we didn't like that. But you can see it in a way that, in safety, you can see it in the way that on the surface it looks positive, because fewer reports can seems like fewer problems. But in safety work, fewer reports do not always mean less risk. Sometimes it means less reporting, and that's not good. Fatigue does not disappear because we stop talking about it. And that is actually why we launched this fatigue campaign in 2024. We did it to bring focus back to the topic, to remind everyone that focus is a real safety risk. Sorry, that fatigue is a real safety risk. And to reinforce that reporting fatigue is both important and expected. So the campaign is about awareness, but even more, it's about responsibility. The first core message is simple. Fatigue reduces performance. When we are fatigued, we react more slowly, we miss details, we think less clearly, we communicate less precisely. We may still feel okay. We may still feel that we are within legal limits. But actually, legal does not always mean safe. Fatigue often shows up in small ways, small mistakes, small lapses in attention, and in our environment, small issues can grow quickly. That is why fatigue is treated as a safety hazard. It's not treated as a personal issue, it's not a weakness, but as an operational risk that must be managed. That leads me to the second key message, and that is actually shared responsibility. The operator has clear responsibilities. It must plan properly, it must comply with regulations, it must monitor fatigue risk, it must provide reporting systems, and it must support an open safety culture. But actually no system can feel how fatigued crew are. No schedule knows how crew has slept. No manager can actually measure crew alertness in real time. That responsibility lies with flight crew and cabin crew. So actually shared responsibility means both sides must act. The operator must create the framework, but crew members must use it. If reporting numbers drop because people think fatigue is just a part of the job, then we have a problem. Fatigue is not something we accept, it is something we need to manage. This brings me to the most important point. I think we have a lot of crew members in the room, am I right? Will you please raise your hand if you are still flying? We do. That is good to see. But you have to remember, you as crew members are the final safety barrier. It's not the roster. It's not the regulation. It's not the fatigue management system. Actually, it is you. Only you know if you are truly fit for flight. If you report for duty while clearly fatigued, you are accepting risk, operational risk. Competence is not only about technical skills, it's also about judgment. You have to ask yourself, am I alert? Am I thinking clearly? Can I manage something unexpected today? If the answer is no, or even maybe, that matters. Reporting fatigue is not weakness. It's a part of doing your job properly. So actually, crew responsibility also means supporting each other. If you see a colleague who which looks exhausted, say something. Silence does not improve safety. Legal limits are only the minimum, they're not the goal. You can be fully compliant and still not fully alert. So actually, regulation set boundaries. Your judgment goes beyond that. So let me be clear. Fatigue is a real safety risk. Managing fatigue is not optional. The organization has responsibility, but you as crew members are the final barrier for that. If you're not fit, you must act. If you see risk, you must speak. That must be the standard. Thank you.
Thank you, Mads. Now I invite Simon and Dennis for a BIS today. So they're going to provide their perspective from an operator side. And then I come with a conclusion. Thank you.
A very short perspective.
Very short. Yeah. So are we sharing the responsibility again?
Yes, we're sharing the responsibility.
All right. So, data quality. Mainly our challenges. So, for example, of course, we also see a challenge in underreporting due to cultural barriers, fear of reporting fatigue.
Yep, we have inconsistent reporting across our fleets, our bases, and our crew groups.
And then subjective variability in self-reported fatigue scales.
Talking to the analysts, one of the things that they highlight is incomplete or inaccurate text. The same thing has already been said, the difficulties in trying to work out what actually happened.
And then timing delays. So it does matter when the report comes in, because if it's too late or if the report takes too long, then it reduces the accuracy of the report. So
we have to continue to promote a just culture. That has to be irregular, it has to be clear, targeted communication. We bring new people into the business every year, particularly with the cabin crew, but also the pilots. And it's important to just keep that messaging going. We have supported our reporting processes to make it easier to report, to support the reporter. And we provide feedback to the crew communities to show the value of reporting. Now, one of the challenges we have is providing feedback to everybody. At times, we simply cannot do it. We aspire to, but we can't. But we think it's absolutely essential that there's regular, and sort of like every couple of months, feedback to employee groups, whether it's cabin crew or the pilots or both, about the value of reporting.
And then what we already said earlier, standardized fatigue scales and reporting forms. So what we've been going through is, for example, through the reporting forms, as we were missing some information. So we thought like, okay, it's a balance between mandatory and non-mandatory fields. And we basically based this on the shared responsibility for better data quality. And then the greater use of data validation steps. So it's also checking for missing or duplicated reports. And then, like we said, align timelines with all the safety reports, so within 48 hours.
Yeah, just picking up on one of those things that Dennis said, which is about validation. One of the things, there's an automated email that goes to the crew. It looks at the crewing code that's assigned to unfit and sends reminders to the crew to say, can you send in your fatigue report? What we had before we had this, the reminders, we were chasing up a lot of time, trying to find the crew why they hadn't submitted their report for unfit. Since doing that, the compliance is almost perfect. We're trying to increase the automation in the reports, the fatigue report forms about how much data, we said earlier, about automating in terms of how much data the crew need to put into it. So simple things like when you open up the report and you choose your flight, it populates all the things to do with that flight. We get more accurate information that way, but it also makes it easier. We're using analytics to detect the anomalies and highlight some of the data gaps. And the bringing crew scheduling, the fatigue reports, the operational data into one environment, one analytical environment is important, rather than actually looking at these things in isolation. And we are evaluating the use of AI. I'm going to point again to my great colleagues in EasyJet there who are well down that step, and probably, I don't know if there's an opportunity later, they'll be able to share what they've done there. But we're certainly looking at evaluating the use of AI.
And yes, a short summary again. So data quality, it's a continuous improvement journey. We've improved over the years now, but whenever we see reports coming in and we notice something, then we keep on promoting the fatigue report forms, and we are working on it so that we get the right quality to work with. A strong governance, supportive culture, and of course smart technology to deliver reliable insights. And then high quality data enables more proactive fatigue risk management. And of course the objective is effective evidence-based FRMS that promotes crew well-being and operational safety.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we beg the question, what can we do? There's no quick fix, of course, but we have some ideas that we are discussing with the stakeholders. Is providing better guidance an option? Is updating Ecker's taxonomy another option? And here I think the network of analysts who have experts, even in-house, Claudia, that have long debated this, so this feature is very high in prominence. So, as always, I'd like to conclude with a picture. It is an ecosystem. We're not talking about crew members in isolation. So we have organizations, systems, we have people, we're treating with people in the end, and we have bias in the end. So nothing is straight. We cannot make direct assumptions or conclusions on the issue. We can keep on discussing, and I think maybe we can have 6-day conferences next time, and this topic will still surface. I'm not sure everybody will survive that. But yeah, we keep on talking. So I would like to open the floor, and I'll ask my esteemed colleague John to help me with this. So, Dino, if I can go sharing the screen.
Hopefully I've got it right. There we go. Good. So I'm going to sit down. Oh golly, sorry, a little bit easier. There we go. So should we go through the questions? I realise you can share them and I'll highlight them. There we go. Team effort. So the first question we have is, how do FRMS distinguish signal from noise in fatigue reports? Are reports filtered? What criteria determine their safety relevance?
Wow, that's a great question, but one we could probably spend the whole day discussing.
So yeah, I'd be really interested. How do you filter it as an operator? I guess ultimately with narratives and reading reports.
So the narrative is part of it. Also, we have mandatory fields that they have to fill out, so we actually can then slice the data in those terms. We also biomathematically check our fatigue reports to see what might be on average, and we also look at other criteria like our alertness reports to see what it is, and also trying to look at the context of those particular flights. So were those flights delayed? Were the crew delayed? So they were operating, so FTL completely compliant, not going into discretion, but operating at later time. So it's really actually about investigating the challenge is when the reports are incomplete, and that puts a lot of work on the analyst in order to get more information.
Yeah, indeed. I remember when we built the European risk classification scheme, there was kind of we always imagined it like a quick triage. I mean, I know many organisations use ARMS and other things like that for that kind of thing. So it's, yeah, ultimately the challenge is the information you have, and if you have fatigued and a few words. That's one of the challenges. Okay, well, let's carry on. It was discussed that fatigue is not an event and thus traditional risk matrices may not be appropriate. Missing ERCS scores don't surprise me. And
It's true.
indeed.
It's true.
Yeah. ERCS was designed as a quick triage between things that were probably a lot less nuanced than fatigue.
Yeah, exactly.
Best way of putting it.
Yeah, and it's one of the things that, both systems don't talk to each other, are not compatible, so we're aware of that. So, thank you, Johanna.
Next to Mads, beautiful worlds for crew, but real life is different, particularly if the operator is not on your side. Well, that's why we're here ultimately, and why we have campaigns, isn't it? To start educating and helping.
I think it's more a comment than a question, actually. And I don't understand. The thing is, why shouldn't the operator be on our side? There's nothing about sides here. We are in the same world around fatigue here. So this is nothing to do with sides, actually. And in that context, I really would like to say that we in the Danish civil aviation have a fantastic cooperation between operators, unions, and ourselves. And this idea of a campaign started I think it was in 17 or 18, and then it was ruined by COVID. But now this campaign was get together, and we were standing side by side about this. So I don't see that any operators are not on our side. Actually, we have a common responsibility about this.
And that's what I was saying before lunch about this kind of polarized them and us. It's how do we do that together is really the key thing. Cool. Let's move on to the next one. Do we ever ask ourselves why are crew not reporting? What's behind it? The real reasons. It's the same thing. How do we create that culture where it's part of us all being in it together? I think.
Can I comment on it?
Please do.
I think if you go into the link on our website to see what kind of material actually we were doing on this campaign, is actually we spent a lot of time trying to explain what is fatigue and how do you measure fatigue in real life. So we tried to create a focus on actually the definition of fatigue, and then the importance of reporting it. So these were actually something we have a huge focus on, is actually that we need many reports, but we actually need the quality in the report as well.
Question for Simon and Dennis. How do you train crews on filing fatigue reports?
So basically what we are doing is we train in courses we show them what the fatigue report looks like. We are currently working on kind of a booklet where the fatigue report is also filed in. And then, of course, whenever we have changes in the reporting form, we communicate through, for example, safety newsletter, and we publish it to our crews.
It's an area where we want to do better. So we've discussed this, and this is going to be one of our focuses, is actually to give more training to the crews, more information. Said before, we like to do it in bite-sized chunks rather than in big chunks, with the idea of actually giving the crews more guidance on this.
Yeah, excellent, thanks. I'll go to the next one. There's two. I deliberately highlighted one from lower down. So there's one question: do we need to add fatigue as an event type on ECAS? So the answer is it's already there under personal alertness and fatigue events, because that's then linked to the other question from Johanna, that there are indeed only 3 items currently under personal alertness and fatigue events, and as you saw in Clint's slide.
But it is one of the potential actions that could be agreed after the BIS is done, so we're waiting for feedback. There are proposals to expand, but we don't know exactly to what granularity we need to expand. But yeah, from the safety issue analysis, I think it's clear that we need to expand. We need more granularity.
How to manage fatigue reporting and potential fake reporting in order to get an additional day off. We had this question last year in Madrid from somebody, I remember.
What did we answer?
I think it was as much about the cultural debate and the suggestion that, you know, people there is an endemic in the industry of people reporting fatigue to get an extra day off, and that potentially the problem was much more the other way, of people who felt they couldn't report fatigue when they were actually fatigued or sick.
Yeah.
I think that's the general, but again, it's part of that.
So there's always people that may misuse or abuse a safety system. We know that. We believe that people do that to be small. We do actually track the amount of, say, unfits. So we look at it in terms of base, rank, everything. And outliers are quite clear. However, the most important thing is to support people. So our first thought is actually duty of care, and that is, why is this person struggling to get adequate rest? If their roster looks normal, so that's one element to it. And also the point about it is, what are their environmental factors and how their management, and you know, the fatigue team, we don't manage crews, we don't manage pilots, we don't manage cabin crew, but they do have a management and they can support them. And what we've done is given training to those managers to increase their skill level, their understanding of fatigue, so that when they're having the conversations with crew members, they're a little bit more informed about human science, about fatigue science, and that's something we're doing on an annual basis. In fact, because it's quite a subject, we've broken it down into a couple of days, so they don't listen to my voice for too long. We give them a chunk of a day at the end of the summer season, and then at the beginning of the next season we'll be doing. So right now we're about to do part 2.
Interesting. Yeah, and I know I've had discussions with quite a few operators who look at kind of life events as well. You know, are you caring for elderly parents, or you know, have you got a baby in the household?
Are you an early person?
Yeah, exactly. We were talking about that yesterday. Yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it? The next one: where can crew turn to if pressured to fly when fatigued? Hide fatigue under sickness, not to file fatigue reports, or routinely use commander's discretion. How can NAAs, NCAs, and EASA help?
So I think Mats can confirm this. Every NCA has, or should have, let me put it this way, a voluntary occurrence reporting, a confidential reporting system. EASA has a confidential safety reporting system as well. But my advice is, first, ideally, they should go to their NCAs, because the NCAs know exactly the context of the operator. I will not delve into detail into CSR processing and reporting. Robbie, it's one of your hobbies. And it takes a lot of work, but that is one channel that can do. They can use. Not sure. Are there any avenues?
No, actually, evidence. I don't have any evidence for that, because I think pressure to fly when fatigued, this is absolutely a no-go. And I hear people laughing, okay, but then they have an issue not coming to us about it. Because if we as an authority has knowledge about this, then we have to take care immediately. So actually I have asked many years about evidence of this, and I haven't got anything.
Cool. Should we move to the next one? We've got 5 minutes with some...
3 minutes.
Yeah, we'll do 3 more. What's the panel's view on using a fatigue model to validate if a fatigue report is to be accepted?
You can't use a model to tell somebody what they are experiencing. So we use the biomathematical modeling to try and see what the underlying issues might be. We're very much looking at finding root causes and systems. We build a picture from lots of reports rather than just say one particular report. But you can't use a biomathematical model to tell somebody that they are not fatigued. The fatigue report is valid whether the biomathematical model says that they were fatigued or not, because that is that person's experience, and we rely on individuals to make that judgment. It is about judgment, and if they believe that they are fatigued, then they are fatigued.
And it's interesting, when we first built the event type taxonomy out of ADREP, we had lots of debate at global level about would you change an event type, if somebody'd report, particularly things that were about personal feeling in that sense. And yeah, we had lots of interesting debate about that. Is that the answer you were hoping for, Sarah? Excellent. Maybe we take this last one and then we finish. So from Catherine Jones. Hi, Catherine. How are the EASA and occurrence reports being mined for fatigue behaviours and not just the word fatigued? How can we be proactive for the real picture?
So from our side, from our safety issue analysis, and we were very limited with this. So I think the vast majority of the reports that were in ECARS, were in the database, didn't even have a timestamp. So from our perspective, it's something that we would have liked to do, but it was not possible for us to do. I think that it could be authorities, also operators, for sure, and authorities and CAs could have a better picture. Again, this is linked to the chain, to data quality.
And indeed, I think over time, there's that data. We've built data for safety to be able to mine more of this data. If only we had a better fundamental basis of data quality. Yes. In that. And maybe from an operator perspective.
Sorry, I was just actually reading the next question that comes through there. But in our presentation earlier today, we said this is what we're aspiring to. Taking together the data, which we didn't think we've done so well in the past. So yes, it's definitely our objective, is to bring these things together so that we can actually mine for it. But to give some examples, we had situations where we've identified in an event where we believe fatigue was a factor, but the crew were insistent that actually fatigue wasn't. And when you start drilling down to reasons why people might not report, it was perhaps the thought that they had shown error of judgment by reporting when they were fatigued. And that certainly, there was nothing implied, and that was certainly not the case. But what they had told us was most certainly their rest had been. So there was plenty of evidence there. But he didn't. The journey we want to get on. Realize just that it's not something to be ashamed of.
Я тоже так думаю.
In fact,
Thanks. We're going to have to finish there.
Он екі жас, мен оқығанда айтты ғой, 12 жас оқиды, 12 жыл оқиды деп. Әлі оқымай жатыр ғой.
Thank you to
Shut up.
the next panel would like to come up.